Hey, chapters 16 and the glory, and chapter 17, Lenoir's new master. Chapter 17 was what I'm doing today of The Man from Glengarry by Ralph Connor. So in chapter 16, um, we get um, Ronald's father, MacDonald Da, um, him him kind of his conversion, his strong conversion to Christianity, the kind of the swept up kind of fervor of the people who, I guess, there's all these meetings. They're having meetings each night, and they kind of like, it's going so well, and it's like so fervent. We're worried about, like, they don't want to make it an explosion. They don't make want to be over into hysterics. They don't want it to be showy. This is tamped down evangelism, and there's like, oh, I don't know if we should continue. And they ask a congregation, at which point, um, Black 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 Murphy, he stands up and says, "Oh, I'm a sinner, but I think we should continue." And everyone else is like, "Yes, we should continue," and because it's this kind of thing of like all these tired ass farmers in the middle of in the middle of their harvesting are also doing late night kind of um, fervent religious stuff. So they do, um, but they do get the harvest done, and he's happy. He's happy with that. Ronald has really shown himself as like as a man, and even though he might not keep the land, he's kind of satisfied. And they continue kind of their dialogue with Mrs. Murphy, and Mrs. Murphy is about, like, forgiveness, because that's, the whole thing of, like, she knows that you kind of have, hatred for Lenoir in their head, in their minds, and the older dad does forgive before he dies, and he gets Ronald to promise that he will forgive, and he'll let Lenoir know that that his father had forgiven him, in his hearts, and hopes he finds Jesus Christ and all that stuff too. Um, so yes, they do that, and Ronald does promise very grudgingly, but he's having real trouble with it. He doesn't really believe it. The old man, the father, dies, and he gets his axe, and he goes, and MacDonald Vane, the brother, takes him under his wings. It's like, I'd like you to be a son to me. I don't have my own son, and I would give you, like, you can have what's mine after I am gone. It's like, I want to give it to you. And he says, okay. And they decide to go off and do the logging. He wants to go into the shanty towns and do the logging. The season comes up, and he says, okay, yeah, you can. And he does, and he's a great man to have in a tight spot, apparently, and all this. Um, and yes, so we have all that. And in chapter 17, Lenoir's new master, we kind of flip to Mamie, who is kind of getting her head turned by being back in kind of the big town, is kind of taken up with this kind of foppish soldier, in a garrison lieutenant in town, um, and but the shantymen are in from their thing, because they brought in the logs, and there's all this talk of corruption, and that they need a new picker and stuff like that, because the picker and a couple of the accountant were conspiring to rob the company, and they say, hey, get Ronald to do it, because Ronald comes to town, and he's all dirty, and Mamie's embarrassed to see him in front of her very spit and polished lieutenant, but you know and he's like, oh, she's changed, maybe she's forgotten me. But the her brother and the girl, who I can't remember what's her connection to the family, they drag him along, and that's when he gets selected to be the picker. And then they go off for other stuff, and they come upon this the French Canadian they come upon earlier, who they kind of had a little jostle with, but it'd been fine. and he's getting beaten the shit out of by the Gatineau boys. I guess he's of the Ottawa, and these are the Gatineau French Canadians, and they're beating the shit out of him. And they step in, and they looks like they're going to get him out, but the guy can't help but throwing some insults. At which point the Gatineau guys rush them all, and they're saying like, "Ah, you fucking English as well." They're in a terrible fight, but Ronald comes battling through, and they beat him up. And of course, the French Canadian turns out to be Lenoir, and Lenoir says like, "I heard what happened to your father. I am very sorry. I'm very sorry." And it's like, and he Ronald actually says like, "My father told me to tell you he forgived him, and I forgive you too," which is like, oh shit. Well, that was early in the novel that we're having this, and it wasn't that much of a struggle. I guess Ronald is just such a terrific guy that he can just, forgive the guy who basically beat his father enough that eventually later he died from it, which I was expecting this to be a little bit more of a conflict. I don't know. We'll see. And Lenoir says like, "I want to be yours. I want to be yours. Take me on," and things like that. And they reluctantly take him on. And he's like, "Oh, how much you drink?" It's like, it's all very kind of, I'm assuming French Canadian patois is being kind of done in the novel, so we've got that. But it's like, "Oh, I have like 5-6 drinks that I feel good." Then it's like, "Well, I'm probably less than that." It's like, "Oh, okay, well, I learned the way." And it's like, so I'm still wondering if Noir is still going to be he's the black is going to still be a trickster in this story, is going to be someone who's going to test Ronald, and that he, that forgiveness and, will to be, he will get consigned to his own evil end. Probably his own evilness will then end up getting him in the end. That's my thought. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, he just forgave him, which, as drama goes, not so great. But we'll see. All right, more videos later.